It's 4 p.m. here in Teshi. After more than 15 hours at sea, Emmanuel Marty, a fisherman, and Ernest Noti, also a fisherman, returned to shore, tired, frustrated, and empty-handed. For generations, the sea has been a reliable source of livelihood for coastal communities across Ghana. But today, that lifeline is becoming increasingly uncertain. Emmanuel has been fishing for 8 years. Originally from Pram Pram, he now travels to Teshi in search of fish, an indication of how unpredictable the ocean has become.
Emmanuel Matekode, me free Pram Pram. Oh, I check a crowd to say 8 years. 8 years. Me started in Pojuma. And in Pojuma no, me started no. That time no, namu. That time our kufuo J kufuo the type namu papa.
My name is Emmanuel Marty. I am from Pram Pram and have been fishing for 8 years. When we started, there was plenty of fish, but the situation is very different now. Fishing has become very difficult. Those days, we did not have to go too far before getting fish, but now that is no longer the case.
So what I say? And see by the in Pojuma no din to say titi no. Then titi no there bibia kama o kompo o betima hia nam no na wada wo chi akod fie. By the say kopo e betima nante a ye hunhye na ye de aba fie.
Fishing seasons that were once dependable are no longer reliable. August, traditionally a peak period for abundant catches, no longer guarantees results.
Sometimes say so ba, say so pese otoa. Na wada no so o ye jide enti that time no yentimi nkompo. Wada no obetime change ye be hu wo fie yentimi nko.
The weather pattern is no longer consistent these days, and it is affecting us badly.
Say ye kompo na ye betime hia no wompo nu, by say nam wo ho a. Ye betime den ye de hia no kakra ni senyakopo adoma.
Like many fishermen, Emmanuel Martin now studies weather patterns before heading out to sea, adjusting to conditions that continue to shift. He also believes that harmful fishing practices, particularly the use of light for fishing, are contributing to the decline in fish stocks.
Titino, one say Titino, Impunu, Inamu, one say General December, we say, yet men yanama aban, safru. Opoku yetime anya na ma ba fie but say December no or Chuma August no.
In the past there were different types of fish in abundance, but things are quite different now. We used to believe August was one of the best seasons for fishing, but now it is no longer consistent.
So she said the moon so ko ane a won so ko ane a inam no ontime ye papa but say we chim na fe do be start wo east na ba west na won na afide ye hu nam kakra wo imponim.
For Ernest Noti, a fisherman with 12 years of experience, fishing is more than a job, it is a way of life passed down through generations. He began fishing with his parents and has depended on the sea ever since. But survival now comes at a greater cost.
This first time me go school, me school, me come fish. One china one pa. Petrol su, ukopa utumu to petrol for the cup.
When I was in school and went fishing, we used to catch so many fish. September and December were very good months for fishing, but now it is a different story.
This summer we buy was school fees grab to this. First in September only offense December fish were so you anu ya not muguma ya tumu share no mere 3 e dey tumu get 1 billion 2 billion a day ayi sa uko e dey buy uko po offense 30 million 30 cedi po to po anya we this has petrol nu buy uko po petrol e dey but petrol be say 3,000 3,000 uko pa get ma unye unhwe.
You can buy fuel worth 2,000 cedis and return home with empty nets. We used to catch all kinds of fish, but many factors are now affecting us.
Sometimes for instance May su racism so na to a o ma nam gese tuna ya patuna ina offense kutemeji dokita fish omu nam nso lechi omu ba but this nyama bebre omu di offense kamikaze bi su ase ablofo no omu ya kamikaze bebre oda omu di so no na mo ba no stop na mo no mchi na mu this ya kwa ya hunhwe sama bu no ase no niko ayedi aman ya mu kra ti titi no kra different am mu kra ya mu kra da first na amata no e ba no wada no edi na mu ba ayisi a nyama sisa o ma se nyama no kra man sa ya hwe nsuo no na wada no nsuo nam no di wada no edi na nti se wada ni mba na mu mba.
Fishermen like Ernest are traveling further distances, sometimes as far as Axim in the western region, and even beyond Ghana's border to Ivory Coast, Guinea, and Liberia in search of fish. These journeys can take 1 to 2 weeks at sea, yet returns continue to decline.
Sometimes I think we are for the Takradi. Axim cry go share mu cry on boy cry I top do better for the 10,000.
Nti mu fia kwa Axim to meet how many days?
To be better 4 days. 4 days for so you share na mu do gakle. Na mu ni ho. You got to go nyina.
We now travel as far as Takrady, Axim, and even Ivory Coast in search of fish because of the changes in weather and other factors. In search of fish because of the changes in weather and other factors. Sometimes we spend more than 4 days at sea. We have our own ways of maneuvering during the search. The Chinese are also using big trawlers, and that is affecting us.
Because now we say canoe 10. Omunya ba channel na asi omu se puru. Channel for omu se puru pa. Sometimes we see Latin. Ma channel for tuna first titi no. Sisi ma yakọ ro sisi ayakọ. Tuna na opoku.
He attributes part of the problem to illegal fishing practices, including the use of chemicals by some foreign operators, which he says is damaging marine life. The financial strain is also increasing. Many fishermen take loans to purchase premix fuel, but poor catches make repayment difficult. After more than a decade in the space, Ernest Note is now considering leaving fishing altogether and transitioning into tiling as the returns from fishing continue to diminish.
Isa anyima punu punu ni kon ayedi beto nsun bu ayedi ti sometimes etimu kofishi be say 3 months 4 months na nye fi
Sometimes we can go for more than 5 months without any good catch. I want to stop fishing and going to Thailand because at least that is a skill I can rely on. Fishing has become very stressful and dangerous now.
Anu kura ya sisi aye bi nu ka say kura ayedi ayedi kura bo sisi o si o beja kura ma to minyama fishing beja no akoye ejuma mako offense mako go si ejuma Thailand na steaming na bibi na no be yeska so no say so usua ya go ya do so you banyo contract na there o be yeska see because fishing ukwa I feel like papa wa kokru ukwa fro inom ukwa beto adwani edi beto adwani be there 500 and say Ghana ukwa unye shu asam beto petrol well is our chop money mfama go school dey chop money go school already.
Well, not a pleasant experience here in Teshi, where I find myself in one of the canoes here. I've been trying to, speak to these fisher folks here. I mean, they've been raising a lot of concerns, and one of the key concerns had to do with climate change and its impact on their operations, for want of a better word, you could say activities. Yeah, I spoke to quite a number of them who actually came all the way from other places to Teshi here, all in the name of searching for fish around this particular area. when you speak to them, there have been some changes with respect to, the timing with which they catch certain fishes. And it's something they're trying to get their heads around it. It's quite tough.
An agriculture economist, Dr. Shaibu Bani Azuma, explains that global warming is having a significant impact on fish stocks. According to him, rising temperatures are reducing the ability of fishermen to catch fish and are forcing marine species to migrate.
So currently we are experiencing some global warming, and what that means is that there will be temperature level rising, and for that matter, when the sea increasingly is getting hotter, there will be expansion of water bodies, and of course at the coast you will see people who used to be very close to the sea lines are now having to move away because of the expansion of the sea levels that is affecting them and their livelihoods along the coast. Yeah. There is. When we were children, there was a lot of harvest, not only in the sea but also in the rivers just closer to our homes. Today, there's evidence of declining fish level. In fact, some statistics put it at about 7%, others just between 6 to 7% in terms of the decline in fish level of production. And why is this so? It's because of the temperature rise that we are finding. That scientifically is also linked to the level of oxygen within the sea that produces a lot of the fish that we have. So yes, that is reducing catchability. Also because the rising temperature level is causing rising levels of water, which actually destroys some of the ponds. Some of the farmers actually set up ponds on the sea to be able to produce fish, aquaculture. So when this water level rises, it destroys some of the infrastructure. And when that happens, obviously there is impact on the amount of fish that is produced. Yeah, of course, just like human systems, people will move towards very good conditions, where good conditions are. So similarly, fishes are also biological objects. So definitely when you are in an environment where the comfort level is not as good as it should be, you will migrate towards where comfort level actually is better. So it's the same thing for the fishes. So if you were in a particular area where the temperature levels are conducive for you as a fish, and then you observe that temperatures are increasing around that area, you definitely will move or migrate to areas where conditions might be better.
Yet that coastal erosion is further compounding the problem, threatening both marine ecosystem and the livelihoods that depend on them.
Yeah, so in terms of coastal erosion, when the erosion occurs, it doesn't just mean it is taking away top layers, but also it means that there are other contaminated chemicals that are also coming into the system. Now we are having the advent of galamsey in Ghana, and all these chemicals that are washed into our sea actually will provide some level of discomfort for the fishes in the areas where they would have been predominantly existing. And so when this erosion pushes these unwanted chemicals and materials into regions where these fishes are located, of course, as I mentioned already, normally they will have to move away from these severe conditions to areas where the condition will be better for their survival. Yeah. It is much severer now because 10 to 15 years ago, galamsey was not as evident as it is today. Today, we have had to even invite stakeholders to look at it as a national security situation. And unless, of course, you are blind to what is going on, the system is quite worse now compared to just about even 5 years ago or just a few years back. So the situation is getting worse now. If nothing changes, a time will come that, and I am not trying to sound so alarmist, a time will come that all of us will probably have to produce our own fishes in our backyard or in our homes because the rate at which we are destroying the environment, which is also contributing to the global warming situation. Some of us will project that in the next 20, 30 years to come, the water bodies will be polluted so much that fish catchability is going to reduce, and even the little that we catch will be polluted to levels that we might not be able to consume them. So if we don't do something about it, soon we might all have to start producing fish out our backyard just for public home consumption. Yeah.
What these communities are experiencing reflect a broader environmental shift. Former Sowa is a 25-year-old fisherman who represents a younger generation facing an uncertain future. According to him, fishing seasons are no longer predictable and catches are significantly lower than before. He notes that climate change is affecting their ability to catch enough fish to sustain their livelihoods. Environmental pollution is also contributing to the challenge. During periods of heavy rainfall, waste is washed into the sea, leaving fishermen to retrieve debris instead of fish.
Especially when the rainfall, I'm a cheer joy of your a war no more fair and shop direct. Or rubbish.
The climate is changing, so we are not able to catch the amount of fish we need to make a living. When it rains, waste is washed into the sea. So instead of fish, we end up harvesting rubbish. The dry season has also lasted longer than usual.
But we are 7 years ago, 6 years in it. Allo 8 years here a family. E ba share. Me ya dan in family. Imba. Ara ta won ego be che na ego che wa years ni na go ego. Business and gaba enye gaba. Bona. O sani loji ni ga rabata yen na rabata anye ba na loji unye family. Amnya me ba. Bona. Oh, me shine ni mo la ga na no chumo kongo la manma chuara fish la. For
Thomas Sowa, the future of fishing is uncertain, and like many young people in the coastal communities, he's considering alternative livelihoods.
Honestly, if I find another job, I will stop fishing because I'm not gaining anything from it. My future is at stake. Fishing is not easy anymore. It is not as profitable as it used to be.
Nina go 25 years. Kwani ndefi ogame 20 ni maga na 50 years here. India teba.
Florence, a fishmonger, is also experiencing the effect of declining fish stocks. With fewer fish available, her business is struggling, affecting her income and ability to support her household. For many women involved in fish processing and trading, the decline in fish supply is directly linked to their economic survival.
Yeah, because of light in it, omunya ni sabium. Omunya na ma I say omudi ba air fresh no mu the light any boat na ko. Affect because weather ni yet say cut down no mu the light any boat kitwa na ko siso a. E na China for no su ko a. Omu pamo omu ambanya fresh na ba no mu the light for na ko bom na ye baako. Ti ye best say omu so omu hwe na sa light no any omu ko China no na mo omu si enyi ye nintunu no mu destroying still no affect ye nyina ya business nti ye best say mpanyifo no hwe ma ye.
Well, not a pleasant experience here in Teshi. I find myself in one of the canoes here. I've been trying to, speak to these fisher folks here. I mean, they've been raising a lot of concerns, and one of the key concerns had to do with climate change and its impact on their operations. For want of a better word, you could say activities. Yeah, I spoke to quite a number of them who actually came all the way from other places to Teshi here, all in the name of searching for fish around this particular area. when you speak to them, there have been some changes with respect to, the timing with which they catch certain fishes. And it's something they're trying to get their heads around it. It's quite tough.
Fisheries scientist and aquaculture professional at the University of Education, Winneba, Dr. Jemima Etonam Kasa, highlights the scientific basis of these changes. She explains that sea surface temperatures along Ghana's coast have been rising steadily over the years. This increase in temperature is disrupting marine ecosystem, causing fish to migrate to deeper and cooler waters where survival conditions are more favorable.
Yes, I would say that there is considerable evidence which has been able to link climate change as well as rising temperatures to declining fish stocks. However, I must add that this is not a straitjacket or a blanket consequence, because what is actually happening is that while climate change and global warming impacts are contributing to decline of fish stocks, there are certain species which are actually also having an advantage, where because of their physiology and their life processes, they need warmer temperatures to thrive. Sea surface temperature rise as well as global warming is favoring a few species, but on the whole, it is contributing to decline of several marine species, for which I would mention some specific examples of how this comes about.
As a result, fish are becoming more difficult to locate and catch. Dr. Kasa further notes that ocean warming is affecting fish breeding patterns, reducing reproduction rate, and contributing to long-term declines in fish populations.
In fisheries oceanography, we do know that the sea surface and also the seawater per se is not just a stagnant body of water. We know it's static. And there are also currents in the ocean. So these currents are literally like rivers, okay? So bodies of water within the ocean that move at a specific speed, that have their own chemical characteristics. And these currents tend to be areas where you have fish being retained or revolving around. So what the currents do is that fish are moved in the current, or they move with the current, either with it or against it, to a more favorable breeding ground, what we call a nursery ground. That is where the younger fishes, which are yet to reach adolescence or they are juveniles. Some are also moved into other currents that send them to places where there is enough food for them to grow to maturity. And then marine fish also take advantage of some other currents which bring them to coastal areas to breed at specific times of the year. Now, in coastal areas, especially off the coast of West Africa, we have the Guinea current. This Guinea current is a coastal one, and at certain periods of the year, due to instability within the water column, mostly as a result of change in wind direction and then water temperature, you have colder water moving to the surface and warmer water being downwards. Now, this colder water comes up with a lot of nutrients. So what these marine species are able to do is that they are able to time their movement in line with the currents to come closer to the coastline during the major upwelling season, which is now happening within June, July, August to September. The specific timing, which has also changed slightly as a result of global warming. So these species come closer to the coast at this time, mostly gravid or pregnant or breeding, to ensure that the eggs that they hatch, the larvae, would have maximum food in the water due to that nutrient boost, okay?
When combined with overfishing and pollution, these pressures significantly worsen the situation. Compared to 10 to 20 years ago, the changes are more pronounced, and without intervention, fish stocks are expected to decline further in the future. At the policy level, authorities acknowledge the growing challenge. Deputy Executive Director in charge of Technical Services at the Fisheries Commission, Professor Abiche Siedu, says climate change is significantly reshaping Ghana's fishing industry.
Yes, climate change is an environmental factor we realize that the human-induced aspect of climate change is on the higher side. So all the things that we do, okay, in the, contributing, driving old cars, the temperature or the heat that we generate, all these things change the rainfall patterns, cutting of trees, and that sort of thing. So as a commission, we have a climate change unit, and generally, there have been low education, okay, as far as climate change is concerned. So we are doing a lot of education, sensitization among the fisher folks, okay, to know the impact or to realize that this is what is actually happening. They themselves, they tell us the stories, okay, so that's something that is happening in there. The other one is to also build what we call the adaptive capacity of our fishers, okay. How can they cope with climate change in there?
For non-governmental organizations like the Global Fisheries and Resilience Action, collaboration is critical to addressing these challenges. Okwet Segbo is the country director of the Global Fisheries and Resilience Action, and he emphasizes the need for stronger engagement between government and stakeholders.
A majority of them are human-induced factors that we are not expecting only the fisheries, the people within the fishery space to address. It is something that requires every Ghanaian taking all the actions to reduce the impact that we have within the space. And I think that is the main way we can address it. It shouldn't be fisheries centered. It has to be all stakeholders within the space, in the fishery space, environment, forestry, every other space, working together to mitigate the impact of global warming.
Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Emilia Arthur, says government is committed to implementing reforms within the sector to ensure sustainability and improve livelihood.
We have a shortage of fish production in this country. The demand of fish is 1.2 million metric tons a year for us to eat, to cover the 60% animal protein that comes from fish. The rate of depletion is frightening. Some of it is natural. When I say natural, I mean climate change impact. Some of it, and a lot of it, is human action, human activity. The illegal fishing methods that some of the fishermen are using across the different subsectors, across the different fleet, like light fishing, using DDT, blasting the habitat of the fish.
But for fishermen like Emmanuel Mate, Ernest Norte, and former SOA, the crisis is no longer a distant concern. It is their daily reality. An ocean that once provided abundance is now unpredictable. A livelihood that once sustained families is now uncertain. And the future that once seemed secure is now at risk. These fishermen say if urgent action is not taken, Ghana's coastal communities may lose more than just fish. They may lose a way of life. Reporting for Joy News, James Ishen.